All right, let's just dive right into this. Thousands of years ago, thinkers in ancient India were asking some incredibly profound questions. Things like, who am I really? Is the world around us actually real? What happens to us after we die? And is consciousness just a temporary byproduct of the brain? Now, if you think these sound like, late-night dorm room musings, think again. In this explainer, we're going to see how these ancient Indian sages didn't just casually ponder these ideas. They literally treated them as rigorous, scientific, and psychological frameworks for understanding existence itself. We aren't talking about dogmatic religious beliefs here. This is a deeply analytical taxonomy of reality. And honestly, modern psychology and neuroscience are really just starting to catch up to it. So these timeless questions, they were systematically tackled through brilliant debates, logical analysis, and hardcore empirical observation. It's a fascinating journey of human discovery that completely shifts the focus away from blind belief, straight into direct lived experience. Actually, the word they used for philosophy in ancient India is darshan, and that literally translates to seeing the truth. You see, the ultimate goal for these folks wasn't just to sit around reading books or doing abstract mental gymnastics. Not at all. It was meant to be a practical art of living. The whole point was to directly perceive the true nature of reality. And to pull that off, they developed this incredible variety of distinct philosophical schools. To help us navigate this massive intellectual territory, here is our roadmap. Number 1, the Great Divide. 2, the three challengers. 3, mind and matter. 4, science and logic. And 5, rituals and reality. Okay, section 1, the Great Divide. Acceptance or rejection of the Vedas. Here's the crucial thing you need to know. All 9 of these major schools of Indian philosophy are neatly categorized across one massive fault line. On one side, we have the Astika, or the Orthodox schools. These are 6 distinct systems that accept the absolute authority of the ancient Vedas. But on the other side, we have the Nastika, or the heterodox schools. These are 3 fiercely rebellious systems that completely reject Vedic authority, forging their own radically independent paths to truth. We're going to impartially explore all of them, but let's kick things off with those challengers. Section 2, Nastika, the 3 challengers, Charvaka, Jainism, and Buddhism. Get ready for this because we're looking at some shockingly modern ways of viewing reality. First up is Charvaka. This school is just absolute unfiltered materialism. Emerging way back around 600 BCE, they totally rejected God, the soul, karma, the afterlife, the whole shebang. Their core rule was that only what you can directly perceive with your physical senses is real. If you can't see it, touch it, or measure it, it doesn't exist, period. But their most astonishing idea was actually about consciousness. They argued that consciousness is merely an emergent byproduct of physical matter. They use these brilliant analogies to explain it, like just as mixing betel leaf, nut, and lime magically creates a red color, or how fermentation creates alcohol and intoxication, these specific combination of physical elements in your body creates your consciousness. Once the body dies, boom, consciousness ends. So their motto is incredibly simple: maximize pleasure, minimize pain, and just live happily, because this is literally the only life you get. Now, in stark contrast to that, we have Jainism. Jainism says reality is fundamentally split into 2 things: jiva, which is soul or consciousness, and ajiva, which is non-living matter. Unlike Charvaka, Jains believe absolutely every living thing has a soul, from us humans all the way down to microscopic bugs in the water or dust. It's this highly progressive view of consciousness. And here, karma isn't just some abstract moral concept. No, Jainism views karma as literal, microscopic physical particles that stick to your soul whenever you act out of desire or anger, kind of clouding up its natural purity. To stop that from happening, they practice ahimsa, which is supreme nonviolence. But mentally, their most brilliant concept has to be Anikantavada. That's the doctrine of multiple perspectives. They use that famous analogy of the blind man and the elephant, right? One touches the leg and says, oh, it's a pillar. Another touches the tail and goes, no, it's a rope. They're all partially right, but none of them have the absolute truth. It is this beautiful, ancient plea for intellectual tolerance. The third challenger in this group is Buddhism, and honestly, it's really best to look at Buddhism not as a religion with creator gods, but as a deeply empirical, totally practical psychology focused entirely on healing human suffering. The Buddha realized that life is just full of suffering, and not just physical pain, but the underlying anxiety of knowing that our happiness is temporary. So he formulated the Four Noble Truths. 1. Suffering exists. 2. It's caused by our ignorant attachment to things that are constantly changing. 3. There is a way to end this suffering. That's nirvana. And 4. The map to get there is the Eightfold Path of ethical and mental discipline. The Buddha literally hated useless metaphysical debates. He basically said, look, if you're shot with a poisoned arrow, you don't just sit around debating who shot it or what kind of wood the arrow is made of or the wind trajectory. Are you kidding me? You take the arrow out. And that is Buddhism in a nutshell, pulling the arrow of suffering out of the human mind.
Moving right along to section 3, mind and matter. This is our first Astika pair, Samkhya and Yoga.
So crossing over the divide into the 6 Astika, or orthodox schools, we find something really cool. They're brilliantly organized into 3 pairs. In each pair, one gives you the foundational theory, and the other gives you the practical application. Our first pair starts with the theory, Samkhya. Samkhya argues that the entire universe boils down to exactly 2 eternal, distinct realities, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is pure consciousness. It doesn't do anything, it has no physical form at all. It's just a silent, observing witness. Prakriti, on the other hand, is matter, energy, the mind, the ego, basically the dynamic, constantly changing universe. Samkhya even outlines this incredible 25-step evolutionary model of how Prakriti unfolds into the world we experience. But the tragedy, according to Samkhya, is that pure consciousness gets confused. We mistakenly identify our pure, observing self, Purusha, with our temporary physical bodies and our anxious minds, Prakriti. We say things like, I am sick, when in reality, only the body is sick. The pure witness is completely untouched. Liberation, that's simply waking up and realizing this profound distinction. And that brilliantly illustrates exactly where yoga comes in. If Samkhya is the theory of the mind, yoga is the laboratory. Codified by Patanjali, yoga completely accepts Samkhya's metaphysics, but it hands you the exact step-by-step practical manual to actually experience it. Patanjali defines yoga in one perfect little sentence, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which translates to the calming of the waves of the mind. Because let's face it, our minds are constantly turbulent and distracted. But by following the 8 limbs of yoga, which involves ethical restraints, physical postures, breath control, and deep meditation, you systematically quiet that mental noise. When the mind finally becomes totally still, like a perfectly calm, glass-like lake, the pure consciousness of Purusha reflects perfectly. And boom, you achieve Kaivalya, or complete liberation. All right, section 4, Science of Nyaya and Vaisheshika. Logic, debate, and atoms. This right here is where ancient India really flexes its rigorous dedication to critical reasoning, debate, and physical science. Nyaya is the school of logic and epistemology. It was obsessively focused on exactly how we know what we know. They built a highly advanced system of critical reasoning that a lot of scholars consider even more detailed than Aristotle's logic. Back in ancient India, if you wanted to prove a point in a debate, you couldn't just state your opinion. You had to use Nyaya's rigorous 5-step syllogism. Watch this. First, the proposition. There is fire on that hill. Second, the reason. Because there is smoke. Third, the example. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire, like in a kitchen. Fourth, the application. Well, this hill has smoke, which we know is always associated with fire. And fifth, the conclusion. Therefore, there is fire on the hill. It is an incredibly tight, bulletproof framework designed specifically to prevent intellectual laziness and make absolutely sure that our knowledge of the world is valid and completely error-free. Partnered up with Nyaya is Vaisheshika, which is essentially ancient atomic physics and ontology. These guys wanted to categorize absolutely everything in the universe. They proposed that all reality could be classified into 7 fundamental categories. We're talking substance, qualities, motion, universals, particularities, inherent relations, and, believe it or not, even non-existence. But what's truly staggering here is their atomic theory. They argue that earth, water, light, and air are fundamentally made up of invisible, completely indestructible atoms, and these atoms combine to form the visible world we see. Even more fascinating, Vaisheshika viewed God not as some magician who zapped the universe into existence out of nothing, but as an immense, supreme intelligence, like a cosmic architect who simply organizes these pre-existing, eternal atoms according to the laws of karma. Which brings us to section 5, Rituals, Reality, and Vedanta. This is our final Astika pair. Let's just slow the pace down slightly right here, because these next ideas resonate with some of the absolute deepest metaphysical questions of reality. First in this pair is Mimamsa. This school is deeply, deeply concerned with dharma, or duty, and the precise, flawless execution of Vedic rituals. In fact, they developed a brilliant science of linguistics just to interpret texts perfectly. To Mimamsa, the words of the Vedas weren't written by humans at all. They are eternal, literal, cosmic sounds. They believe that when you perform a ritual or chant a mantra exactly right, you literally generate a purva. Think of it as an unseen cosmic force or potential energy that absolutely guarantees a future result. Interestingly, they didn't really focus much on a creator god. To them, the universe operates on this flawless mathematical law of cosmic action and reaction. Doing your duty perfectly, that was the ultimate goal.
And finally, we arrive at what is arguably the intellectual climax of Indian philosophy, Vedanta. Based on the concluding, most philosophical portions of the Vedas, the Upanishads, Vedanta seeks to answer the ultimate question: what is the absolute reality behind everything? They call this ultimate reality Brahman. But Brahman isn't the person sitting on a cloud in the sky. No, it's described as Sat Chit Ananda. That means pure, infinite existence, pure, boundless consciousness, and unadulterated bliss. It is the singular, foundational ground of all being, from which the entire universe is projected, sustained, and ultimately dissolved back into.
But of course, even within Vedanta itself, there is this beautiful, massive debate about how we actually relate to this ultimate reality. On one side, you have Shankara's Advaita, or non-dualism. He argued that only Brahman is real. This diverse, crazy world we see around us, it's an illusion, which he called Maya. He used this brilliant analogy. Imagine you're walking in the dark, and you jump back in terror because you see a snake on the ground. But when you shine a light on it, you realize, oh, it was just a piece of rope. The snake was an illusion. The rope was the only true reality the whole time. In the exact same way, we see a diverse world of separate individual objects, but the only true underlying reality is Brahman. Now, contrasting that is Ramanuja's Vishishtadvaita, or qualified non-dualism. He argued that, yes, Brahman is absolutely real, but so are individual souls in the physical world. They aren't illusions at all. They are real interconnected parts of God's magnificent cosmic body, in the same way that individual cells are real interconnected parts of your own body. Both sides of this debate offer just an incredibly sophisticated view of the cosmos. So let's look at how all of this builds to what has to be one of the most powerful realizations in human history. Vedanta ties all of these vast cosmic frameworks directly back to you, right now, watching this. Through deep, relentless inquiry, Vedanta asserts that the very core of your being, your innermost conscious self, is not separate from the ultimate reality of the universe. The profound declaration is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. You're not just a tiny drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean, in a drop. Pure consciousness and the ultimate reality of the cosmos are fundamentally one and the exact same thing. And there you have it, the truly incredible taxonomy of the Indian mind. We've explored Charvaka's absolute materialism, Jainism's brilliant multiple perspectives, and Buddhism's profound psychological healing. We unpacked the deep evolutionary dualism of Samkhya, the practical mental mastery of yoga, the rigorous logic of Nyaya, and the atomic science of Vaisheshika. We've seen the cosmic duty of Mimamsa, and finally, the ultimate unifying pure consciousness of Vedanta. You know, these aren't just dusty ancient relics. They are 9 distinct, vibrant lenses through which to view existence itself. So I'm going to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on. Whether it's hardcore materialism, critical logic, selfless duty, or realizing that you are literally pure consciousness, which of these profound philosophical lenses best aligns with your own lived experience? Really think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. And hey, keep questioning reality.